Hello and welcome inside the training room. I am your host, Dr. Ken Kaufman, and I am absolutely pumped to have you here where you get exclusive, behind the scenes, VIP access into the training rooms of professional sports. Thank you for joining me inside the training room. In today's episode, my special guest is Kevin Angell, a tech entrepreneur with a background in personal training, law enforcement, and the military. He's developed several technology solutions to help homeowners, citizens, and law enforcement. He's been the creator of diverse mobile apps such as See Something, Send Something, Park Close, and Pet Detective, an Ambler alert system for pets. All right, so Kevin Angell, welcome to Inside the Training Room. Kind of America 2.0. We're doing a lot of things remotely, even though you live right here in Sarasota. But
right,
busy schedules and whatnot make this a perfect venue for us to be able to get our guests on the show. And I want to welcome you inside the training room.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dr. Ken. I appreciate it. It's an excellent opportunity, again, like you said, even through some social distancing here to still be able to talk about some of the hot topics and maybe even include what's going on and what we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. And for our listeners out there, I thought this would be really, really pertinent right now, simply because of the America 2.0 that we're in, the changing environment. Who knows how long this is going to last? I know they're talking about loosening up some of the restrictions, but then you have other talking heads talking about, well, we're going to have a second wave. So
right.
we need to be able to, especially in a profession like as a chiropractor, I'm very limited in what I can do, because if I can't touch my patients, what am I going to do?
Right.
Likewise with a personal trainer, that's usually a one-on-one type of scenario. So, there's a lot of things that a lot of people are scared on how they're supposed to approach their new business ventures and how they're going to approach their audience. So, but before we get into that, let me ask you a little bit about your background. You have a personal training background yourself. You also have been in law enforcement. You're a tech entrepreneur. So why don't you give us a little background on who Kevin Angell is and how you got to where you're at right now?
Yeah, thank you. And really, if I could sum it up in one word, and it's kind of what we'll talk about here, it's diversity. If I had only had one of those backgrounds, that potentially right now would have been X'd out of the market, then it would be a tough time. And so the personal training background comes from being in the military. Our units, physical ability tests would come around every 6 months, and we didn't have anybody that was a personal trainer. We had a great gym, and so put in the time and got the NASM certification, and really after the military put that to work. But as I said at the beginning, diversification. I was in law enforcement at the time. It was great to have there as well, as we would have new recruits come in, or we would have people that had been in law enforcement long term that got kind of stale and wanted to reinvigorate, kind of get some of those muscle groups back. But being in technology now, again, as we're going to keep digging through this and peeling back the onion, it's important that you have that in personal training as well, and that's not going to be in your book. That's not going to be in the manual, how to market yourself, and what to do when the world's shut down.
Well, and that kind of goes along with the whole theme of Sportsman on Demand, is that especially on the business side is, and this has been a comment on several occasions from some of our clients, is that I learned a lot about human anatomy and training and physiology in school, but I learned absolutely nothing about the business of personal training. And I can tell you for my own experience as a chiropractor, I went to chiropractic college 30 years ago. And I can assure you, you get out and you think, all you have to do is kind of set out your shingle and open your doors and people are going to beat your door down because you're so great.
Sure.
And the simple fact is that doesn't work. You have to be able to reach people in an effective way to not only market yourself, but then also build a business around that whole process. And so, what your skill set you can certainly offer of the whole marketing aspect of it is, how do you effectively market yourself and get people in the door through effective marketing?
Right. And as you said, there's not a lot of continuing education or professional development when you're at the rung of being, the everyday personal trainer.
Hmm.
It didn't exist before this. Like you said, they gave you your certificate, you hung out your shingle, you maybe went and grabbed a couple of clients. You worked solely on word of mouth.
Hmm.
And it's just, that there's a lot going on in the industry, even if you were only to look at the slice of new equipment that's coming out.
Hmm.
And there needs to be updates to that, and there needs to be some coaching to kind of help get these people through times like now, and then even when we get back to that growth period.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so you in the military, you got into personal training so you can help your fellow soldiers. And then I might assume that after the military, then you got into law enforcement.
Yeah, so I was actually in law enforcement the whole time. The military
Oh, yeah,
came in.
MP.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I was even local law enforcement. The military was kind of a middle ground, not
Oh,
expected
I
by
see.
9/11. So I took a leave from local law enforcement, the civilian side here in the U.S. After 9/11, joined the military,
Mm.
and kind of in between my law enforcement career. And so, much like you said, there was a need
Hmm.
there. I had an interest, and we had a beautiful place to work out. So they were nice enough to sponsor me through the NASM program,
Nice.
and yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, good, good. So after the military, you got back into law enforcement.
Mhm.
And how did this all start with this idea of an app of see something? Is it see something?
See it, say it, send it.
See it, say it, send it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's no worries, no worries. It's kind of a mouthful. So
Yeah.
I got out of law enforcement and got into, the entrepreneur in me, the entrepreneur in you. I got out of law enforcement and got into body worn camera consulting all over the country.
Mm,
And however fortunate or unfortunate, I was in Las Vegas right after the Route 91 shooting.
mm.
And I was in Charlottesville just after the riots there. And so I
Oh, cool.
asked some of my colleagues, I said, hey, what's the biggest challenge of these investigations? And kind of like we're talking about now, again, using that personal trainer kind of example, it's what's the next technology?
Right.
What's outside of the box thinking? And they said, collecting this evidence that everybody has on their phones.
Hmm.
How do I get that information? And so I'm on that Delta flight home, and I've got the napkin, and I'm drawing out this idea that you could take a picture of a suspicious incident. Your phone knows where you are, so it knows
Right.
what jurisdiction to send that information to.
Mm, interesting.
Yeah. So the Department of Homeland Security, we've all heard of see something, say something, but
Hmm.
there wasn't a vehicle for that.
Right.
And so this creates the vehicle to be able to send that information in.
Okay. Wow. That's fantastic. And how long ago did you develop that?
Just over 2 years ago.
Okay.
So it hit the market, sadly, or by luck, I guess, the day before the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting
Oh, goodness.
here in Florida. Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. Jeez. So, and has that been widely accepted by different communities around the country?
it has. It really took off, bigger than my my imagination at the beginning. I kind of
Hmm.
dumped a lot of my retirement into this,
Hmm.
gambled, and I'm not a gambler.
Yeah.
It's now
It's
in
a
20. It's now in
it's not
25
a
states.
gamble. It's not a gamble when when a lot of it's in your own hands. But I
Right.
understand what you're saying.
Yeah, well, but I didn't know the technology side. Again, we go back to the start of this with diversity. It was something
Hmm.
that I was just like, hey, throw my hands up and see what happens here. And we're now in 25 states
Hmm.
with 750,000 users.
Oh, that's awesome.
So blessed. I've learned a lot. You and I have talked about some of the technology side.
Hmm.
I've learned a lot, and it's a good thing to share with anybody that's looking to get into using technology as part of what they're already doing or
Right.
creating their own new technology.
Yeah, and that's a couple of years ago, just kind of having the idea of how do we effectively get not as beneficial, I guess, is what you created. But the idea of being able to disseminate knowledge and information to trainers and patients and coaches and individuals that work with other clients and patients, to be able to allow them to deliver better services and a better product. And it started off as kind of an online training program, but it morphed into Well-Connected, the mobile app. So I didn't know anything about developing mobile apps either.
Right.
And so, we're perfect examples of figure out how to do it, because there's plenty of information out there, and there's plenty of resources that can lend you help. And so if somebody's out there and they're thinking about a mobile app or a web-based platform of some sort, but they don't understand it, they feel intimidated by it, get over it. Go ahead and go for it. And the resources always show up, is what seems to happen. And if you're really dedicated to figuring out how to do it.
Yeah, and surround yourself hopefully with good people. I did a lot of research before I finally cashed in, and the team that I ended up using to build that app, I now employ them because we build more apps. And the first thing I tell people when they come to me, and it's important to do an interview with the person that you want to do technology work for you.
Sure.
The first thing I say to them is, if I don't want to be mean, but if I don't understand your app, I'm not going to take your money and then try to guess how to build it. So
right.
That relationship is every bit as important, that the person has a buy-in as well.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. They have to believe in it in addition to, being able to deliver, but they have to believe in and see the vision of what you're trying to achieve. So that's great advice.
Yeah, and again, I hate to make it sound like a broken record, but it really does all tie back to what we learned, with the body. If there's a buy-in from the person that you're working on from a chiropractic standpoint, or a buy-in on the person that I'm training, we're going to see better results.
Absolutely, and that's. So much of this can cross over, like you say, getting the buy-in, seeing the vision, and looking at the big picture, not the, don't get lost in the forest because of the trees, just focus on the big picture and how to move forward. Because, again, I didn't know anything about technology. I didn't know anything about, developing courses and online programs or anything like that, but you learn how to do it. You have that entrepreneurial spirit, and you're not afraid to make some mistakes. And, but that's what it's all about, is going for it.
Yeah. And
so go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, especially right now, World 2.0, while we have some downtime, while those gyms aren't open, now's the time to reinvent yourself. Go get that education, learn something that either parallels what you were doing, or something that can help prop it up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, where we're at with SportsMed On Demand, is being able to provide those specialty type training, not only in the business side, but also on the physical side of, being able to have a better understanding of different types of injuries that you're going to encounter in either your practice or your training business, and having an arsenal of knowledge, and now's the time to develop that. So that's where we're at. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Inside the Training Room. Please join us in the next episode, where I continue my discussion with Kevin about his company, Crowdsourced Geofencing Solutions, and his recommendations in bringing an idea to market on a shoestring budget.